Facebook
YouTube.
and on YouTube. Welcome to the first of 2024's Harmony Music Education Live.
Woo!
I am Craig Harmon.
And I'm Ella.
This is Ella, my daughter. She is going to be part of the team. Well, a team, that means there's more than one person. So here we are. So, Ella, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm 14. I'm a freshman in high school. I have ADHD, so that'll make for a fun live stream. I really like theater and frogs and the cottagecore aesthetic. And I think I already said I like theater.
You did.
And I also really like mushrooms. You can tell by my shirt. Mushrooms are cool. We love mushrooms.
So if you see social media posts that have lots of frogs on them or frog related things or mushroom related things, that would be her.
Yep.
She's going to be helping out with lots of social media stuff and other roles to help out as we move forward. And so today, well, wait, before we dive into what today is, you talked about all the stuff that you like in theater. What instrument do you play?
Well, I sing, and I taught myself how to play the ukulele.
Yeah. So if there's any students that are looking at wanting to learn the ukulele, there she is. She's going to teach it. So our theme for this live stream, we are diving into our theme for this month of January. It's been the studio theme for the month of January, focusing in on practice.
Beep, 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 beep.
Yes, practice. Oh my gosh, that's the most important thing to improve as a musician. And growing up, one of the quotes that my parents would like to use on me quite regularly, especially my mother, would be "Practice makes perfect." The reality of that is, it ain't gonna happen. No matter how much we practice, it will not be perfect. So, our studio theme is practice brings progress, because that's the goal. When we're practicing, we're not aiming for or trying to achieve perfection, but we're working on progress. What does that look like? Well, sometimes progress can be really big leaps and bounds. It could be just slowly moving forward. Sometimes progress is really teeny tiny, and that's okay, as long as you are working to move forward. And Ella happened to find this great quote by the director and composer Vladimir Horowitz, and it says, "The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is practice."
It's a pretty good quote there.
Let's sit with that for a little bit. What does that mean? The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is practice. So, Ella, what does that mean to you?
I feel like it means that if you practice and you do your best, then you will get better, or you'll at least make progress.
Okay.
But if you don't practice and you're just like, "Oh yeah, I know it, I'll be fine. I don't need to do that," then you'll stay on the same level and you won't make any progress, and you'll just stay where you are.
Yeah. So I mentioned about the quote that my mother would use on me, "Practice makes perfect," but there was another quote that's stuck with me for a long time that my grandmother would say, and she said, "Good, better, best. Never let it rest until the good is better and the better is best." And I think that really is what we're striving for when we're working on practicing. We want to always have that improvement as we're going along. So it's taking good, making it better, taking better, making it the best it can be. And ultimately, when we're talking about practice, this is the thing, is we're taking it apart. We're working on it slowly. We're working on it in little chunks and sections, all the different things that we've posted about on social media, just kind of talking about how to practice, how to do these things. There's lots of different ways you can do it. But the important part is to actually do it. Of course, right? And, the thing about practice is, a lot of times, and I hear this from students quite regularly, I don't have time to practice. That's a fair question, right? Fair point. You've got so many other things. You got homework, you've got video games, you've got sports, you've got this, you've got that, you've got this and that and this and that, right? But the thing that I've found is I think that when you break it up into smaller chunks, like if you practice, say, twice a day, if you can fit 5 or 10 minutes in 2 different chunks, all of a sudden now you're practicing for either 10 to 20 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's reasonable.
And when I was teaching myself to play the ukulele, I was just kind of playing when I had free time. It wasn't like, I was teaching myself like after school when I had finished my homework for like 10 minutes maybe. It wasn't like a full 1 hour practice the ukulele, learn it, do the things. It's just kind of finding cool songs to play. Practice can be fun.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I think is really, really important is it's not always about the length of time that you practice, but how you use that time. One of the things that many beginning students and beginning practicers try to do is to say, well, I played it for 10 times in a row. Well, awesome. If you played it without mistakes for 10 times in a row, woohoo, great. But if you had spots where you weren't 100% confident in and you hesitated, or you slowed down, or you stopped and started over, you're not really fixing the problems. And so really one of the things that I've tried to focus in on with my students this month is to figure out those strategies to help you before you are sitting down to practice. One of the things that I think is so important is looking over that piece of music before you do anything with it. I mean, before you sing, before you play, before you do anything, look at it. I know it seems weird, right? Look at the music.
Like in choir, we do before we sing the song, we do sight reading. Like we look at it, we sight read, we chant, and then we sing. Right. So that we are able to look at it first and understand and process the music before we do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things with music is to be prepared for what's to come, looking ahead. And so if you're just jumping in and looking right at it the first time as you play it, it may be a little bit of a struggle. And so one of the things that I encourage students to do is look for those repeated patterns, whether it's note patterns, whether it's rhythm patterns, or note and rhythm patterns, because really when you take music apart and take it down to basically its most fundamental level, music's all about repetition and little patterns. It really, really is. It's amazing how that works. And so when you're looking at that, then you can say, okay, I'm identifying where those challenges are. Like for my piano students, one of the things that I encourage them to look at is, where are you moving your hand? Because anytime you're having to physically move your hand on the keyboard, that's one of those little points where you can really have those spots where you're going to mess up or not be 100% confident. So it's working on those things to really bring that practice. Now that doesn't mean, hey, I played it through 10 times. I'm focused on where those troubled spots are, because everything else is not that hard and everything else can pretty much just fall into place. So it's figuring out those strategies and learning how to use those. And that's the idea. Going back to the quote again, when we're looking at ordinary and extraordinary, the way that I approach this is, music is a language. And as we learn language, one of the things that happens is we practice it and we improve at it, right? Some people are wonderful at spelling or English or things like that, because it's just something that naturally comes to them. But there are others that have to work at it. And when you work at it, well, they become better and maybe even extraordinary. One of the things growing up that happened for me and my sister, who was 18 months younger than I was very naturally gifted when it came to music. I struggled to put in practice because, well, number one, it came to me naturally, so I didn't have to put in the work. And number two, I didn't like it because nobody likes practicing.
Yeah. I don't even like doing homework, and that's practice.
Right. So I didn't want to do it. And she worked hard at what she was doing musically. She played clarinet and she sang in choir, and she did an absolutely amazing job in that because she had to work at it and she improved and improved and improved. In fact, her senior year, in the High School Musical, they did South Pacific and she was Bloody Mary, and she did an absolutely fantastic job. And a big part of that was because she worked at it. For me, everything really came naturally, and it wasn't until I got into college where I realized, ooh, wow, I'm on scholarship for voice, I'm on scholarship for organ, and there's people here who are better than I am. I mean, when it came to organ, there weren't that many kids in high school that were playing the organ, and so, at least that I knew of. And so when I was looking around, I'm seeing all these other people who are a lot better than I am. They're more gifted than I am, and they're putting in the work. So I had to figure it out, because a lot of times growing up, it was my mom making me practice while she was doing the dishes. And I think because we didn't have a dishwasher, and I think she took her time and probably double rinsed everything just to make me practice longer, because it was pretty much about 30 minutes a night that I practiced. But, one of the blessings, honestly, for me, speaking of the organ, was growing up as a pastor's kid, living right next door to the church. I would get up in the morning before I went to school and go practice because, well, not really a whole lot of organs floating around, but there happened to be one right next door in the church building that was there. And that was a tremendous blessing for me because I could get up in the morning and practice. I could practice in the evening when there's nobody in the building. And a lot of people don't always have that access, right? You may be playing a trumpet and you're living in an apartment. That's a little bit of a challenge to practice. The blessing for me in that, when I was playing the trumpet, was we lived out in the country where there were cows as our neighbors. So I could play my trumpet really loud. And
yeah, they must have had a fun time listening to that.
Nobody would really notice. So that helped a bunch. But the point is, you have to make the best of the situation that you're in and try to be creative in how you use your time. Be creative in how you're working, because when you're putting in that time, you're going to see improvement. Again, the improvement may be really small. It may be huge.
Progress is still progress.
Exactly. So that's how that goes. Let me see here if I can pull up where we are on YouTube and on Facebook to see if anybody's got any questions. I don't see any at the moment, so that's not a problem. And let's check on the Book of Face here.
The Book of Face.
The Book of Face.
The Book of Face.
And see if there's any questions over here. Nope, there's not. That's okay. So if you got any questions, you can definitely dive in and throw them out there. If you've got questions about practicing or things that have worked well for you in regard to practicing, would love to discuss those. Otherwise, we'll keep rambling on here for a little bit longer.
We love rambling.
Any thoughts for you, Ella, on practicing?
I think as you were talking about how things that teachers and parents said to you, something that my old choir teacher told me was practice makes permanent. So if you're practicing your very best and you're taking time and you're going back and fixing the thing, fixing your mistakes, then you'll get better. And if you just are kind of not really trying and not really putting in the effort, then you're gonna stay on that same level and you're gonna stay that way. And that honestly, as somebody who does theater and choir and all that stuff, I'd like to say that I'm a pretty good singer. Singing comes fairly naturally to me. So I don't usually practice after voice lessons, which is something I need to work on. Saying the whole practice makes permanent, I need to kind of work on, not just practicing in voice lessons and practicing at home too, because one, singing is something that I enjoy and I want to get better at that and challenge myself, and two, practice makes permanent, and I want to be the best singer that I possibly can be. So I want to go back and fix my mistakes and get better at improving my range or belting or whatever we're working on.
As her dad, she's always singing.
Love you.
She's practicing all the time, so don't let her say she's not practicing, because
Well, I'm not practicing the songs we're working on. I'm practicing like show
but she's
tunes.
singing, and that's the other thing. And I was reading a book between Christmas and New Year's about practice, and one of the interesting things that came up with that was the idea that listening is practice. And it seems weird, doesn't it? But the thing about it is, we take in so much music by these, right? We listen. We're not always, when we have the music on in the car or wherever we are, we're not looking at a piece of sheet music. We're typically just listening. And I think listening to music can definitely be a huge help as we're thinking about how we learn and understand rhythm, listening for melodic ideas, what they're doing harmonically, all the different things, phrasing, dynamics, everything, right? But listening to music can be such a huge thing. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be sitting at your instrument or with your instrument to be practicing. It's kind of an interesting way of thinking about it. And I hadn't really thought about that until I read that in the book, and I was like, ooh, that kind of makes a whole lot of sense. It's all those things put together, whether that's, going to a concert and listening to music, regularly listening to music, looking at music, all these different things are so important when it comes to how you grow as a musician and how everything all works together to really make that growth happen.
I just want to say that I know for a fact that's true, that listening can cause or not listening is learning. Because I memorized almost all of Hamilton by just listening to it a bajillion times. So that kind of proved my point there.
Yeah. So we have a question here on Facebook, and this is a great question. Is practicing just about a song they're learning, or are there scales or something else? Oh my goodness. So one of the things that happens when we're thinking about practice, and we'll go specifically here with piano, there are lots of teachers that focus on scales and practicing the scales up and down. And there's a lot of benefit to that. It builds up finger dexterity. It builds up the knowledge of the scales. But the reality is there are many songs that have a straight F major scale running up and down in it. But the whole idea is that it's building up the dexterity and the movement of fingers. Well, you can definitely do that. The problem is, I shouldn't say the problem. The challenge of that is that when you're just drilling scales over and over again, I had to do this. I had lots of different finger exercises I had to do when I took piano lessons. It's so easy to get burned out on them that you just have to do them and do them and do them. And it's not really giving you much of a, well, why am I doing this? And so a lot of those things, when we're talking about what to practice, one of the best things that I've always encouraged students to do, and I've done it myself, I've been encouraged to do it, is to go back and review what you've already played. Because once you've worked on that song, it's not over and done with. You can always come back to it and review it, especially one that you've had fun with. If it's one that you've really enjoyed, I think that's such an important thing. So I think that makes it really, really helpful. Any thoughts for you?
With when you're talking about how drilling scales, honestly, I feel like drilling going through scales could be a good thing. It's like a little warm up, because I know, speaking from a choir perspective, we do 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 mi so do re mi fa sol la si do over and over. But we don't just do the do re mi fa sol la si do. We also do skips, and we do do mi do, the tonic triad. We also do subtonic and harmonic, and we do skips and steps and all the things. So I feel like that if you wanted to do a little warm up on piano, you could practice your scale for finger dexterity, or skip hard skips, an eighth skip. I know how you had
an octave.
An octave. I don't know. I know I had to do something like that when I was playing piano for the year I did.
Yep. So that's a great point too. One of the things that I think is important too, to think about how you structure your practice time, is it's not only physical, it's mental as well. You have to think about, I'm engaging, thinking about it from a voice perspective. If you're singing first thing in the morning, yes, you definitely need to be warming up your voice, because when you wake up, you're talking really low.
Hydrate,
right?
don't dehydrate, especially if you're a singer.
That too. But if it's middle of the afternoon, you probably don't need to do a whole lot of warming up because you've probably done enough talking throughout the day that your voice is pretty well awake. However, the thing about it is that warm up is kind of that physical kick in for your brain on, oh yeah, it's time to focus on this. And when you're practicing any musical instrument, that's the idea, right? What I do with my trumpet students is we start with breathing because that's where it all starts. But then we take just the mouthpiece and start buzzing on it, and let me tell you, that's fun because it's like, you know, kind of a little kazoo. Actually, hey, I have my mouthpiece right here. I can show you. Isn't that
That's
fun?
a fun sound.
It's like a duck call.
Yeah, it's a quack,
But
quack.
starting with that, just to kind of get everything warmed up physically, and then adding it into the mouthpiece, into the trumpet, and then playing long tones, playing different rhythms. All those different things are helping you physically get warmed up. But it's also helping your brain get engaged on, oh yeah, it's music time. Let's go.
Music time.
Yeah, exactly.
Jazz hands.
And you know, and so one of the things that I would do when I was practicing specifically piano is, you know, when my mom would make me practice, I would start with, you know, whatever scales I had to do, whatever technique exercise I had to do, and then I'd go back and do something that I got to do, right? I got to say, I'm going to play this one because I wanted to. It was maybe something that I already done, or something like, I had a book of Beatles songs for basic piano, and I was like, this is fun. And so I was trying to play all that because I thought it was fun. So I did all that, or, you know, just other fun stuff like that. But then it was, okay, now I got to spend time, you know, working on that. Well, that's the different way you can kind of structure how you practice, is to say, okay, maybe it's, let's do the fun thing first, do one fun thing, and then go to something that's, okay, this is part of my lesson, this is what I'm supposed to do another fun thing, right? I mean, it's kind of like homework. You don't say, okay, you know, you got to get it all done right away and focus on it. You kind of break it up in a little chunks.
And especially like, which one of the reasons why I love voice lessons is because I go there, I like say hi to my voice teacher, and then like we start on warm ups, and then we work on, since I'm currently working on solo and ensemble, my solo piece. We work on my solo piece. I get all my stuff, like I make sure that I've got the dynamics right, all that stuff, and then when we have extra time, I go back and sing like an old song that I sang at like a voice concert, just for fun, and just to like kind of, you know, have fun with that, like, because I really like singing, you know, show tunes.
Well, and making music is well, it's funny because I heard this conversation on a podcast, and it's talking about how we're playing music, right? And music, I mean, yes, making music is work to learn it and all of that, but there has to be an element of fun when you're doing it, because
just a spoonful. Sorry, that's something
That
made me remind. See, it's the theater kid braid.
That's right.
Element of fun gets the job done. Whatever the word is.
See, I have the ability to not burst out into song, except for I can probably take pretty much any quote and turn it into a song lyric, more from the 80s and 90s, or she just turns it into a show tune. Anyway, but the thing is, when we're thinking about playing and having fun, that's important. I think there's value in learning classical pieces, learning, you know, all different kinds of repertoire out there, whatever your instrument is, but you have to have fun with it.
Yes.
You have to enjoy
100%.
it. And a lot of times, I mean, that was the reason why my mom wouldn't let me quit piano when I was about second grade, and I was done. I hated it. I didn't want to do it. But my mom would not let me quit, and the reason why is because her mom let her quit, and she said, "You have the ability to do this. You're good at it. I'm not going to let you quit." And as I went along, I found the fun. Whether that was singing, whether that was playing the piano, whether that was playing the trumpet or playing the organ, all those different things I found the fun in. I still do.
I have a friend who like has so much fun playing the piano. He plays like video game themes and all that stuff. He's really talented, and he has fun with it, and it's really cool to see how he like genuinely like kind of like dances a bit to the song he's playing. Like he just genuinely has fun with it, and it's really like nice to see.
He also got a melodica for Christmas, and his mom posted a video on Facebook of him playing the melodica with one hand, playing the piano with the other hand.
That's my bestie right there.
That's insane. That's crazy. So But that's the thing, is that you want to have fun. You want to be creative. That's the whole thing when it comes to music is, I love pointing out to students that when we're talking about dynamics, you can put the same piece of music in front of 10 different musicians and you're going to get 10 different dynamic levels. Who's right? All of them. Because music is that creative thing. And you get to figure out a lot of those things. So it's not like this is the box you must live in. It's really, you can determine it. You can make it how you want it to be, which is super fun. And for a lot of kids, I mean, like for me, for a lot of time, it was hard because I liked the living in the boxes. When I was in high school, my junior year of high school, we started a vocal jazz choir. I'd never done vocal jazz before, and for whatever crazy reason, I decided to audition for it and got in. And so we had our first rehearsal. We had an opportunity to do some scat singing and just improvise a solo. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What do I sing? Doobie ba boo. And I learned how to do it, but it was hard at first because it was like this whole plate was open. There was not this, put this here in this box. It was whatever you want to do it.
Which I feel like is one of the reasons why music is such like a good coping mechanism with things like that, because it's free. You can do what you want. You can sing what you want. You can improv. You can do harmonies. You can do whatever the heck you want.
And she does it all pretty much at the same time.
That's me.
Oh, goodness. All right, let's quick double check here before we end up, see if there's any more questions here or comments. Okay, let's check over to the Tube of You and see what we got here.
Tube of You.
And
any questions for us?
Nope. Okay.
That's fine.
Well, that's all right. That is totally all right. So this has been super duper fun. I hope this has been a helpful thing and an encouragement for you. Whether you're the parent of a student who is learning music,
or the student,
or you are the student, or you're just an interested observer watching this father and daughter talk about practice, because it's kind of fun. So hopefully we've entertained you. Hopefully we've taught you something and helped you kind of come up with some different ideas and grow and learn. We'll try to do this more often. I don't know exactly when, but definitely check out Harmony Music Education's social media channels on Facebook and Instagram. Definitely subscribe to the Harmony Music Education YouTube channel. That's HARMANNY, because it's my last name with a Y added on. I know, very creative, isn't it?
And I hope you enjoyed me, because I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, she's not. And so if you see the frogs or mushrooms or anything else like that,
it's me!
It's her. And probably with some supervision from her father. So just know that there'll be some silliness, but
some goofy silly stuff.
Also some education as well.
Of course.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and if you're watching on the replay, thank you again as well. Make sure to like and subscribe to all the channels. Thanks for tuning in.